And we are live. Good morning, everyone. My name is Josh. I'm from the Australian Worship Network, and we have got the amazing one and only David Crowder, who is zooming in all the way from Atlanta, Georgia, USA, I believe. Am I correct, David?
That is absolutely correct.
Fantastic. Well, welcome. I know that you've you've been doing a lot of interviews already, so you've just popped in from another one. Let me just quickly introduce a few people. We've got people zooming in from around Australia. So we've got some people from Gateway Church in Brisbane. We've got Heart Song Creative Academy in Melbourne, the Worship Movement in Melbourne. And I know we have a lot of others kind of joining us this morning. And also a massive, massive thank you to Faith Media, who have set this up. You know, without people like that, we wouldn't be able to kind of encourage the Australian worship community that we have. But yeah, we haven't had a chance to officially meet because you've just jumped on. So how's things? What time is it over there, first of all?
It is now 5 o'clock, 5 p.m. So yeah, the work day is wrapping up here in America. People are stopping their business right now, going to the house, have a wonderful meal. And what time is it there?
We are just getting out of bed. It's 7 o'clock in the morning.
That is so early. That is so early.
So we've got probably everyone joining us now is probably still in bed on their iPhones.
Perfect. I love that.
So nice and comfy and nice and tucked up on this cold day. So yeah, awesome. So you are on the verge of releasing a new album, which I've already had a sneaky listen to it, which I have really, really enjoyed. I've actually been a big follower since your Illuminate album, which I believe was about 2003. So
we got history, man. That goes back.
Yeah, we certainly do. But okay, so this new album, tell us a little bit about it. What's it's called Milk and Honey, and it comes out, is it the 10th or the 11th?
It's the 11th here, yes.
Okay, so, fantastic. So tell us a little bit about it. What was your inspiration and your heart for the album?
Well, the whole thing, you know, we wrote and recorded everything. There might have been one song prior, like pre-lockdown, but everything was during this whole interesting season we've had globally. I like to say I hope I'm never forced to write an album like this again. Hopefully this is a one-off. Most of the albums that I've done since you've been following it for a while, I've done while on the road. A lot of my friends who do what I do are very intelligent about their careers, and they have like touring seasons. They'll like make an album and then they'll tour in support of the album. Then they'll not tour, and they'll make another album, and then they'll tour in support of the album. I just tour. I just tour. If people will be in a room ready to sing, I'll probably be there. And so I just tour all the time. And then I make my albums while we're touring. And so it's really been bizarre to not be touring and have the freedom to sit in my house. This is a studio at my home. It got finished the same weekend I got sent home from the road. We were loading in Louisville, Kentucky. I was on this tour called Winter Jam, bought a bunch of bands on it. We had already loaded in, we were ready to go, man. And we got word from the tour manager, hey, we're loading it up, headed to the house. The tour's not happening this weekend. And we're thinking, maybe the weekend, we'll be back out next weekend, you know? And they're like, nah, so we became non-essential that weekend. We discovered we're non-essential, and we kept thinking, well, maybe we'll become essential again in next week. And it was you know, a year and a half later. Now I maybe am necessary. I'll get to be necessary soon. No, but I got to make the music here at the house, and the studio literally got done that same weekend. They were finishing up the sound acoustic installation that weekend that I came home. And I got to help with it, which is awesome. And then I got shortly after that to work on an album with Uninterrupted, which was that was a once and only time to have that happen. So it's been awesome. I've really enjoyed the process of making the album, and it wound up being it's going to come across as a concept record. That's just circumstantial. It just happens to be because of the year we were going through. I happened to be writing about something we were all feeling and experiencing as a collective globally. And so it sounds very conceptual, but it was really just writing from where we were. And I kept finding myself writing about what was on the other side of things rather than the despair and the wilderness that it felt like. So I was writing about Canaan rather than the desert.
That's awesome. Okay, firstly, going to say that worship is always essential. So
I'd say that as a tongue in cheek, I think we all
absolutely.
What terrible language to use around people in general. It's like
no,
we have all essential and non-essential. Oh no, we have messed up here. Yeah.
No, it's all good. So this album, if you had a favorite song that perhaps means something more to than the others, or what would it be, and why that song?
That's great. The one I think still floors me the most is the last track on the album, and it's called The Anchor, which seems pretty predictable. What's your last title? What's the title of your last song? Oh, it's The Anchor. It's the anchor track. Man, I went to a good buddy of mine who's known for hip hop production. Like his name's Tommy Prophet. He works a lot, or he's probably best known for his work with NF, the rapper NF. Incredible cinematic. All of his stuff feels epic. It feels like all his stuff feels like it's in a movie trailer or something. And I had worked with him on I Know a Ghost on a number of tracks, and he would just send me tracks and I would start writing along to him. And so when I was getting into this new album process, I'm like, bro, I got to get some of that. You got to bring the heat. I need some of them beats. Give me them beats. And we wound up with a piano song. It's basically just piano and vocal. There are no beats. It just came out of nowhere. I had the idea. I wanted to do this song with Anchor as the visual like the metaphor that we're working with. That you can imagine pretty much the imagery. It wasn't anything crazy. Like if you're writing a song about God being an anchor, you can probably imagine some of the language. But I had it in my head. It was more of this hip hop, urban beats are heavy, and as we were coming up with melodies and stuff, it just turned into this really intimate, confessional type number. And I had to leave. It was about 5 o'clock. It's like time to knock off work, punch the card. And I was like, I had to go. And I'm like, well, let me sing a quick scratch vocal, and we'll come back to it when we have time and see where we are. And when we got back around to it, both of us were like, I think we might be done. I think we might mess things up if we get to. So pretty much all we did was stick a choral moment in there, but the choral stuff functions more like you would a string section. It's very much a part of the musicality of it, and man, I couldn't be happy. I think it turned out better than I could have dreamed, and it still affects me in a really significant way to hear it. So I'm excited for people to get to hear that track for sure, because I think it's unexpected, and as I said, it waiting till the end of the album to create and bring such an intimate moment. It's pretty cool.
That's awesome. That's amazing. One of the questions that I've been handed by someone was that just really interested to know how you go coming. Obviously, our worship starts in the local church. How did you go going from local church through to being a worship leader to being a worship leader for a global movement? How did that?
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
Yeah,
man, I was just talking to the last folks I was talking to. Being on church staff is tough. I mean, it is like I was 16 years on helped start the church that I was a part of. That's where all this is coming out of. I was just trying to help serve. It's like, hey, church starts happening. It's gonna be a bunch of college kids. I'm like, I'm in. Pastor's like, hey man, can you help with the music? I'm like, that sounds like a bad idea, but I'll do my best. And I was just functioning as like the music director, trying to find songs, trying to find players, helping rehearse. I wasn't leading. I was just playing keys, just trying to, pull off a Sunday morning. And it's all grown out of that, just trying to find words Sunday after Sunday that the church can sing together about our journey and our experience to know Jesus as a community of believers that live life, next to each other. And every time the door would open, I would just find myself in a spot where, am I supposed to do this? Like, I know I'm supposed to be helping with my church here. Are we supposed to go do this event? It's college kids calling from San Diego. they've got a weekend retreat. They want us to come. They want our church band to come out. And so for us, it was just, well, if we can get back for Sunday morning, then yes, we can come do it. And we were all in college at the time too. And it was like, until we were having to ask professors, hey, can I miss just one more class? Everything was great. When it became known that, that was sort of how I knew I was doing something outside of the churchy at our local church, was when I realized that my college professors weren't going to let me out of any more absences. They were like, no, you can't miss any more class. And I'm like, oh my, I think I have a job doing this outside of our local church now, because they're still calling. And it's felt like that the whole time. It feels like opportunities will present themselves. And it's just been, is this me and the Holy Spirit and the people around me? Is this what we're supposed to be doing? And it's all felt very utilitarian. I don't feel like an artist. This helps. It feels like what I'm trying to do is serve the church and use what I've been gifted. I'm the music guy. So you go to the music guy to help with the music. You don't ask him to organize the potluck dinner. You let the good cooks do that one. So it's just been trying to serve the church. And I think if you keep your hands open, he'll put stuff in it that's unexpected, and he'll take stuff away that you might wanted to keep hold of. And I think as long as we just keep the attitude that our hands are open and trust him with whatever he's up to, and be happy and excited to be a part of what's afoot as far as his endeavors go, then we're in a good spot.
Yeah, that's great. So has there been, as somebody that's so well known on the forefront of such a global worship movement, how do you keep your heart right? How do you keep your heart pure in your worship? Because I could imagine that would be quite a large temptation. And I know anyone that steps on a platform would struggle with this at times, is just maintaining that purity of heart in your worship, because worship is not about the people. It's about that relationship with the Lord. How do you navigate that as an artist with such a platform?
Man, I think anybody that's leading in the church has that struggle. You're up in front of people, and actually your job is to be engaging, to like engage those that are in the room, make sure that we're letting go of the stuff that we walked in the room with. That's what you're wanting to do anyway. It's like, hey, how can we free people up to engage with their maker through music? And that's a hard task, and you've got to be, it's a skill set that you're learning. So there is that struggle in you. Like, man, I did a great job this morning. I don't think that's a bad thing to feel. I think, in fact, I wish some of my fellow compatriots that lead on Sunday morning would call me to do that better. Be like, bro, that wasn't a good morning. You can do better. I bet you can. Why don't you try a little harder? So there's that aspect of what we're doing. To play skillfully requires a lot of work, and when you've done it well, and when you've failed miserably. And we try to learn from when we fail miserably and do better. At the same time, I think what keeps a person who's skilled at anything grounded are the people he lives life with, or she lives life with.
Yeah, that's good.
It's the people that are up next to you when that half hour or that 45 minutes that you led isn't happening. It's when you're stuck in traffic and your wife's sitting next to you and you're yelling at the car in front of you for not going, that she looks over like, really? Is that so? Really? Yeah. This is what we're going to do? You're going to do this, huh? I think that what people see on a global level are these little bitty moments of life. And there's a lot of other life. And that other part of life is when I'm called to lay myself down as a living sacrifice. And that's what I think. I wouldn't have anything to say or sing about if that other part wasn't active and vibrant. And the way it stays active and vibrant for me when it's off the stage is in relationships. It's the people that I've had the grace of God to interject themselves into my life and intersect with me, and they are why I'm still in love with Jesus and wanting to pursue Jesus. And I think when you have people that are after Jesus in your life and making you want to go after Jesus too, it gets pretty difficult to be full of yourself, because he calls you to the opposite of that. To lay yourself down is that's an active thing, and that's where I think the music has its power, is in following Christ. The way we follow him is to follow him in suffering and self-sacrifice, and that's we learn that best in our relationships, I think.
Yeah, we need people to encourage us, but we also need people to keep us humble as well on the flip side, which is very true. I've got a question from some of our local pastors
Awesome.
and local Worship Network members have sent in some questions. So I'm just going to ask a few of them. We've got James Kazina from New Life Uniting has asked the question, what is your advice for longevity in ministry?
Oh, wow. I'm coming back to the same redundant answer on that. I think it's the people that that are my friends. Man, they've just been in my darkest, worst moments there, being Jesus to me, and in my highest, they've been, like you said, Jesus. Like, it's just, they're never, the people that I get to live life with, they're never satisfied with what they're up to right now. They're always, I want more, I want more, I want more. And thankfully we serve a God that there's an endless, what he has to offer is superfluous. There's no end to it. And so I think when we're functioning in his image, there's no, the well is deep and the bottom is not there. And so you keep drawing and drawing and drawing, and it stays full, overflowing. And I think that's mostly due to the relationships I have. I'm around people that don't quit. They just keep going and going and going. And when you're down, they're there. And that's a church to me. And when I'm speaking of people, I'm talking about those that I'm a part of as a community of believers. Those are my people. That's it right there.
Yeah, very.
Church functions like it's supposed to function. It's pretty great.
Yeah, we're a body, we're a family.
That's it, man.
And that, I think there's music team. I mean, being in music teams myself, people come and people go, but families stay. And the family are the ones that are prepared to give you the kick in the rear end if you need it, to be able to keep moving on and step into the new seasons.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've got another question here. Mark Dean from Gateway Baptist asked the question, how do you stay creative and challenge yourself in not getting stale? Great question.
Yeah, I think that's I feel super redundant. I think it's being around people that are always looking, as I said, looking for more. I tend to, since I think about what I'm doing in a very utilitarian way, I feel like mostly a collector, that when I'm not actually writing, I feel like I'm collecting things. I'm paying attention to what moves me. And I think anybody that's in like the creative field or that's limiting. Humans are always, that's why people are on social media scrolling, looking for that dopamine hit, that hit that, like, we're made and wired in a way that we want discovery. We want to find something that startles us and blows our mind. And I feel like I'm trying to pay attention to what happens in myself. And I just feel like I'm carrying a little bucket around, collecting stuff. And then I have something to draw from later when I'm wanting to make and create. And lots of times I find those things that I'm consuming. I know consumption's like, tends to be looked at as a bad word, but it's also how we stay alive. I'm taking things in right now, a breath of air that's not mine to begin with, but I take it in, I consume, and I stay alive. And I look at art and the things that I'm able to take in the same way. Like, a lot of times we take in stuff that maybe we don't need to. I don't know if I can have as many Coca-Colas as I do during the day. Maybe I can cut back on that a little bit. I feel like if we were as contemplative about the things that we consume visually and orally and the spaces we enter, I think we would have a lot more to say. And so I'm just, as I said, very conscious of what is moving me, so that maybe I can talk something later when I'm supposed to, when the wind starts blowing. So I think that's what keeps me saying things that feel fresh, is because I'm constantly consuming in a way that is intentional. And I think the Holy Spirit is a great aid in that as well. Discernment, not to be overrated.
No, that's great. I think the Lord showed me a little while ago, just dropped this phrase in my spirit, was that when you live in wonder, you will live out worship. We need to be continually in that place of wonder and seeing what he's doing. And
That's
like you
great.
said, taking stuff in, and then the worship is what comes out as a natural response.
I love that.
Yeah. This is perhaps my favorite question to ask. So worship is big industry, and you are right at the forefront in the midst of that.
Yeah.
So what advice would you have, though, to the small local Baptist church, the small church of limited number? They don't have the people, they don't have the resources. What encouragement would you give them in their worship?
Man, that is the best. For me, 25 people is a terrifying proposition. You know, if I'm in a room and you give me a guitar and like, hey, can you just lead us in a few songs? I am a mess of a human. I'm like, no, I can't. No, it's outside of my. So I think because you're having to, as I said earlier, it's a skill that we have to develop. And man, I wouldn't call it a motto, but a phrase I've had with me since I started doing this, and I still feel terrified most of the time I'm in front of anybody, because it's it's a lot of responsibility. I'm now going to put words in people's mouths with something like music's manipulative, and I'm using this thing that is totally just bypassing the head, a lot of times going straight for the heart. And man, dear Lord, do not let me mess this up. It's a lot. And I think that, as I said, developing a skill set that allows us to do that confidently and well. For me, it's as simple as I tell myself all the time, tune your guitar. And it's a metaphor. I know how I can look at my tuner and I can get this right. I can make sure that my E string is as close to the E string as the 440 E as can be possible before I get up there on the stage. And I think that's a great model for there's stuff we can take care of, and let's take care of all the stuff we can take care of, and let's do the hard work, do the stuff that we need to do, then that's out of the way. And now we can just see what happens. And that's the fun part, is when you just know you're okay, hand me the guitar, let's see what happens, because I've done my work, and now we'll see what happens. And for me, that moment with the 25, if we do that well, there's not much that needs it. It's like, I know I was doing what I was supposed to be doing at the time I was supposed to be doing and was called to be doing it. And the rest isn't on me. I don't have to worry about the rest of it.
Yeah.
And that's freeing, man. That is freeing. And I think that's all through Scripture, a lot of the stories Jesus told, he's most of the time trusting you with a little bit, and we're going to see what happens with that. And then from there, we'll go on. I think that's a great way to live.
That's amazing. And I'm always reminded as well that the mega church in Acts was born out of an upper room, out of that small.
Totally.
Yeah, amazing. Well, listen, I'm conscious of time because I know you've got more interviews to go to. So just a final plug for the album. It comes out on the 10th or 11th, depending on where we're at.
Yes.
Well, did I mention the name of the album, Milk and Honey?
Milk and Honey. We're going. Hey, that's the whole time. I'm like, we're gonna be done with this 2020 stuff before long, right? We're going somewhere else. So these are songs about the other side of it. You know, God led His people into the wilderness, but they were headed someplace, and that's what it felt like to be writing during that season of time.
Well, that's amazing, David. Thank you so much for joining us. You've been such an encouragement to me, and I am absolutely sure to everyone else that's been tuning in today. And I'm so looking forward to listening to what's to come. And I hope that you'll be in Australia sometime soon as well.
Man, we had a great time. We were able to go about a year ago, and just man, I love it. I grew up in Texas, and I please don't take this as any offense, but it felt like home. I don't know, just the same. That felt very familiar. The attitude of the folks that we got to interact with was just fantastic. Felt right at home. And the food is great.
That's awesome, mate. Well, thank you very much. Bless you, big. Thank you, everyone that is tuned in, and God bless you all. Until
Thank
next
you.
time.
Thank you for including me, man. Y'all be blessed. See ya.
Thank you. Bye.